Rock 100.5 KATT. My name is Cameron Buckholtz, and I am here with Scott from Rival Sons. What's going on, man?
What's happening, man? How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Just looking forward to the big rock show Thursday night. You guys are performing at the Diamond Ballroom along with Record Company and Starcrawler, and I think it's going to be a party.
Excited about it. Great bands. This is actually the debut kickoff of our Dark Fighter tour, so we're really excited to try out some of these new tunes on everybody.
Indeed, man. And at least as long as I've been aware of your bands, I don't think you've played in Oklahoma City. Like you played at Rocklahoma a couple years ago, and you opened for Sabbath up in Tulsa back
Yep.
on election night 2016, which was a weird night. But I don't think you've
Strange.
ever performed at OKC that I can recall.
That just seems amazing to me as we've been touring for the better part of 15 years or something. So I bet you if I look back, there's some dates that we've played here. I'm the worst at recalling dates, but I'm sure we've been through, man.
I bet you have. It was just before I was aware of the bands, I guess. But still exciting. You're gonna be there at the Diamond Ballroom, which is a cool old honky tonk, and
Nice.
it'll be rad, man. But you mentioned the start of the Dark Fighter tour, which Dark Fighter, the new album, comes out on June 2nd. But it's not the only album you guys are putting out this year. You've got Lightbringer coming out later in the year. So I think that's pretty rad in an age where most bands are like putting out singles and EPs, and you guys are just like, fuck it, double album.
Well, I mean, in one way, because it's the singles world, it's the idea that people's attention span is so short. And for us, we probably could have put these out together, but you just lose a lot. You lose a lot. It's a big bite for people to take. And I think we really just wanted everyone to be able to properly digest Dark Fighter before Lightbringer came.
And was they recorded all at the same time, or was kind of like, how did the progression go?
It was all recorded together. And it wasn't until we were all kind of really just paring it down and had it all in front of us that, I didn't want to make a record that was an hour and 15 minutes. I like records that are like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I like to like be able to digest the entire kind of idea that an artist is going for. 45 minutes is fine, but when it starts to creep into the 1 hour and over, it's just a lot. It's a lot, man. And if you think historically about the albums, it's like I've been quoting even like or referencing even like the Wall. I love Pink Floyd. I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan. Everybody loves the Wall. The Wall's a classic, but that's not a record I want to listen to all the time as a record. I'll cherry pick a couple songs off, and we wanted to create an album experience where it's like you want to put on the whole album. Dark Fighter. It's like 33 minutes or something, you know. I should know exactly how long it is, but it's between 30 and 35 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's digestible. You can like kind of get the concept in one listen, you know? And but yeah, as we pared everything down, we could see kind of clearly there seemed to be a side of the songs, a grouping that sort of cast a shadow that kind of over these last few years, we had this very divisive political, social, racial upheaval in our country. And if you've got kids are home from school, people can't go to work. And it just seemed like nobody could actually agree on anything. Like you literally got people saying the sky is not blue.
Mm-hmm.
And if you believe it is, I hate you. And it just seems like really bizarre. And in writing a record during this kind of a time, I think in general, art should kind of be a mirror of what's happening. It doesn't need to be like verbatim or ultimately super literal, but it reflects. It reflects what's going on, and the feeling of people. So you have a record like Dark Fighter, and it kind of reflects this feeling of divisiveness and divide and darkness, kind of a shadow cast over us. The other side of the collection that seemed really clear when we laid them all out was Lightbringer. And this record, this collection kind of cast light on that shadow. So it wasn't until we had them all done that we actually could see that there are 2 parts that are going to like work better on their own than on one piece.
And then what was the decision then to start with the dark stuff?
I've never been asked that question. I swear I've been asked a lot of questions. I haven't been asked that. I think that was just that. That's how the record started anyway. They would have fallen this way anyway. Like if they were going to be one collection, this is the way they would have gone. You don't want to cast a shadow on the light.
Sure, I get it.
This is a band of hope.
right. You don't want to just end the trilogy at Empire Strikes Back.
That's exactly right.
Gotcha. Well, and the first single was Nobody Wants to Die, which has a really rad music video, kind of the type that we don't really even see anymore. Kind of a lot of people, I guess, have compared it to Quentin Tarantino, but I was watching it. It felt more Looney Tunes to me. But
it was fun, man. Me and Jay wrote that video and produced it. And got a great director in Eli Sokin, and he's a great up and coming, does big commercials and stuff. He's really amazing. We wanted to make something fun. The song itself is kind of an outlier in the collection. So if you get into this record, you're going to notice that the rest of it is a bit deeper than Nobody Wants to Die. Nobody Wants to Die is kind of a moment of levity and fun. The song was written before we started the sessions for Dark Fighter. It was something that we had and just wanted to include, and it kind of fit in, and we kind of wrote around it and made it really work. But the video, it was a fun idea we had. We got a bunch of treatments that didn't work. We got a bunch of directors we didn't want to work with. And this is just what the song felt like to me and him.
Nice.
We had to hit up all of our friends, and we don't have any budget. So everything you're seeing in that video is very labor of love for everybody. It's a passion project. That's my own Pontiac. That's Jay's Mercedes. These are friends of ours and family in the video. It's like that.
I mean, that must be how it has to work nowadays, because I can't imagine the label wants to give you much of anything for a music video, because most people don't care about music videos anymore. I mean, most videos are just, a band in a warehouse or whatever.
But you know what? What do people love the most these days? Content.
Isn't it
ironic? We need content, but we don't want to give you the money to make the content. You just have to shoot yourself in the hotel room or around your house and talk to the camera, please. I don't know. Yeah. For me, I guess I'm kind of old school. I have a harder time just having content inside of my daily life and in my home. So the content I wanted to create for the band and for the project, it should look more pertinent to what's going on and more it's part of the project, And
it just makes everything feel so much bigger when it's done that way.
Sure. It's more fun. I mean, really, that more than bigger, it just feels like we're working and being artistic and creating. And that's the key, just staying busy, being creative.
Sure. And you guys did this record, or both records, I guess, again, with Dave Cobb, who I imagine was a lot harder to schedule this time, because I don't know that there's too many hotter producers than Dave Cobb, or better ones, to be frank.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's a great friend. He's a great producer, and we made all of our records with him. And it was difficult this time. He was really super safe. So when we could even start recording, it was we were all tested before we came into the studio. We didn't use the control room. We just set up an old Neve console in the tracking room. RCA Studio A, where we work in Nashville, is a really big room. So we can actually put a console and monitors and playback and everything in the same room where we're tracking. I haven't really done it that way because you generally need a closer, tighter space to do playback, but it worked great. It was really fun. I'll kind of be in shoulder to shoulder, but it's true. We couldn't get in. Normally we'll get in for 20 to 30 to 40 days and knock a record out that way, write it, record it, and mix it. And this time we could get in for a week at a time. And that's why the record ended up taking, and other reasons too, but that contributes to the reason we spent the better part of 2 years making a record instead of 30 days. We'd write, me and Jay would write a bunch of songs, and we'd go in for a week and record. We'd also write and record new stuff in there. We'd come home with the tracks and work on those from home. We all have home studios, and write kind of in a refractory way where we're looking at what we have and we can see what a record is shaping up to be, and write to that. Then we'd go back in 4 months later when we could get another week and do the same thing. And when you do that, it's pretty quick. When you have 3-4 month gaps between 1 week of recording, it just spreads out really, really quick.
I imagine that had to change the writing process quite a bit too, because having that sort of distance between doing things, I'd imagine you see things differently than had you just done them over the course of 3-4 weeks.
Absolutely. It allows you to really focus in, and like I said, have that refractory period where you can kind of step back from it and see the collection before it's just you're putting a bow on it and sending it away. You can go, okay, here we go. Okay, well, I can see that this needs to go, and we don't need to keep working on that. These 4 right here feel really focused and fantastic. Let's move forward on that, or even just focusing in on each song. Like, I came home with a track like Bird in the Hand, and when I brought it home from the studio in Nashville, it didn't have the intro and the bridge. It didn't have this very vaudevillian kind of gypsy tinge to it. And I thought it needed something, and that's what I came up with for it. And that allowed me the time to be at home with it and just kind of create that section and go, this is that gives it that extra color, you know? And when you're working quick, it's harder to see that every time. You push through.
And was there much concern about it kind of taking so long? I mean, being 4.5 years basically since Feral Roots, and Feral Roots kind of, that was your first record with Atlantic, and I, you got those Grammy noms and started getting, mainstream rock radio play like on our station. And so was there worry that you might lose some of that momentum?
We definitely lost momentum. Let's not mince words. Everybody did. We all lost momentum during the pandemic. When you pull a band like us off the road and slow the machine down like that, it's just what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I guess if you're an arena stadium band, it may not hurt you so much. But when you're a band at our level, we're just getting over that hump. And I don't know how that feels to listeners or fans or whatever, but that's how it feels to us in here. We're not filling stadiums every night. We're working hard. We do good, and we're happy with what we've done, but we're still working and becoming, we're still gaining visibility with people, still gaining traction. So we were really at the very end of our campaign with Feral Roots when that got cut off very quick. We were working a track called Shooting Stars, and we felt that was going to be a good wrap up on that album, but it got stunted and ended very quickly. And yeah, I felt it because we went back out and did a 10-year anniversary celebration of Pressure and Time tour, toured Europe a little bit, and you can feel the fear in the room. People were afraid to come out, and it slowed ticket sales down. It slowed people from wanting to come out. So there was loss of momentum, but there was really nothing we could do about that.
Sure. Now, how was that 10th anniversary of Pressure and Time tour? Because that was a little surprising to me that you guys did that, because you guys don't seem like a band that really likes to look back in that way. It just
Thank you for saying that. That's very observant and very true. And it was really weird. I think a couple things. One thing was that we not to get too businessy about this, but I'm going to talk about this a little just because I want any musicians that listen to know this. We retained our records. We kept our records. So we didn't give our records away. Those early records, we licensed them to the record label we worked with, and they came back to us, and they still are coming back to us. If you can do this, you want to do this. Artists should own their art, So we own our art, and we created during the pandemic a record label called Sacred Tongue Recordings, and we needed a place to put out all these early records and all the records moving forward. So we put out Before the Fire in the EP, self-titled, and then came up upon the time to release Pressure and Time, and I wanted to do a big deluxe edition, which I did, this deluxe box set that's a very thick book with all these pictures. And we thought, let's do something special to celebrate it, because we don't have a record and we don't want to go play Feral Roots. And we're in the middle of working on our other record, but it's nowhere near in sight of being done. we can't just stay home. Let's go tour. What makes sense? This makes sense. Let's go tour and do like play this whole record. So we did it. We did a few tours with that, and it was fun. But it was also, like you said, it was one foot in the future while we're making Dark Fighter, which we totally try to forget everything back here. And it's 1 foot all the way back in the past. And it was fun playing it. It wasn't like it was weird every night, but it was weird in retrospect. It was a strange thing to do. So if you saw that, right on. I hope you enjoyed it. We probably won't do that again with another record.
Wait for the 25th of Pressure in Time or something.
We're never doing it with Pressure in Time ever again. I'm just letting everyone know. Maybe with Feral Roots at some point, you know?
There you go. But that had to be an interesting show, because I'd imagine that there are a lot of your fans that maybe never went back that far in your catalog, that you know,
right,
you picked up on Feral Roots.
There was probably a whole bunch of new fans from Feral Roots that were like new people that went, oh, wow, this is a lot different than the band I fell in love with. And that's how it's going to be. If you discover us, depending on in the lineage where you discovered us, there's people like, I have a teenage son and he swears on Before the Fire, the very first record. He loves that record, which is basically, it sounds like a record that could have been made in 1967 because we used all that same equipment and it was very focused like that. It had much more of a garage, fuzzed out psychedelic kind of approach to it. And it's close to my heart, that record. But it changes immediately when you get to the EP. And then it changes pretty drastically when you get to Pressure in Time, and so on and so forth, all the way to if you looked at Before the Fire and Dark Fighter, you'd swear that can't be the same band almost.
But that's probably how it should be. I mean, that's, you know, not everybody. I mean,
we can't all be AC/DC.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
That's the quintessential band we all point to when we say everything sounds the same. But I love AC/DC. We all love them, and we want them to keep making that record. God bless them. And yeah, I think that's not what we are. It's not what we ever want to be or set out to be. We are in a state of motion, and we're constantly finding new influences and new things we want to reflect. We're living in a very active culture and society and world. And there's just too many good things happening and too many things affecting us as artists, individually and collectively, to make the same record over and over again. It wouldn't feel like reaching, you know?
And you certainly wouldn't have had any reason to put out 2 records this year.
Yeah, that's right.
But well, Scott, thank you so much for the time, and just stoked for the show Thursday night. Everybody go out to the Diamond Ballroom, and yeah, we'll just see you Thursday night, man.
Can't wait to see you, man. See you.
Indeed. Appreciate it.
Cheers.